This episode associates with our operational and design mistakes in reforming units of an ammonia plant. Unfortunately, we made a mistake during a startup of fire heaters, and this mistake was exactly done by me, by Mr. Beruzzi, and I took the full responsibility of that mistakes. At that time, I was a junior process engineer, and I was extremely upset at that time because I was responsible for uh, function test of logic and interlocks for the whole process units, and oddly enough, I made that mistake during a startup. But that's natural. That's perfectly normal to make this kind of mistakes. Now let's jump to the main issue here, to my mistake, and see what mistake I made. As I stated, the mistake associates with the furnace design. I have checked many furnaces and fire heaters logics. What is this logic? The logic is defined for safety of that fire heaters. Each fire heaters has a kind of uh, interlock safety so that no explosion occurs. Personnel or process equipments are protected against any kind of damage. One of the causes of this uh, interlock is the low combustion air pressure. But what is this low combustion air pressure? Let's have a look at the PFD here. You see, that's the fire heater in PFD. This process gas, after passing through, let's say, heat exchangers, and then it passes through the fire heaters. But as we know, we have to provide some heat to the reformer so that some reaction would take place inside these catalyst tubes. In order to be able to provide these heats, we use burners for, in fact, these fire heaters. And as it is obvious to us, in order to have this combustion, we need fuel, which is natural gas and the combustion air. So here we provide the fire heaters, the combustion air with combustion air blower. So it passes through this blower and it blows the air inside the burners and the combustion happens. Imagine this time that the combustion air blower becomes lower than the set point and just natural gas passes through the burner. As a result, the atmosphere the inside atmosphere of fire heaters becomes filled with only natural gas, which might lead to the explosion of the whole fire heater. Because of such matter, we process engineer take into account such cause, such analysis, and recognize this as one of the causes of the total shutdown of this fire heater. Now let's get back here to see the exact problem here. So now we know the meaning of this ones. It is clear to us that this low combustion air pressure should be the cause of these total shutdowns. But what is this IN or D that you see? D is the delay time and IN is inactivations. During a startups, I have to uh, inactivate this cause. You see, at the earlier stages of a startup of these fire heaters, we know that the combustion air pressure is really low. So this is not, in fact, the correct value. It is, in fact, a fallacious value. I can't trust this value. I know that this combustion air pressure is really low. Therefore, I inactivate this and I starting of the reformer or fire heaters. And after reaching a point, I write down the logic here in a way that if it reaches this low set points, this inactivations becomes inactive. To visualize what I just stated, let's have a look at the paint I have prepared here. Imagine this point, at this point that we have not put any blower in service. The pressure, the combustion air pressure is zero. Then we put the blower in service and we can increase the turbine because this blower is driven by turbine. We can increase the turbine speed or we can increase the control valves opening and in any manner, in any way, regardless of the way, the flow rate increases and the pressure increases. And after, let's say, 10 hours or 5 hours, 7 hours, regardless of the time, but it is a long time. It is about 7 to 10 hours. We reach this pressure, this 50 millimeter water gauge. Until this time, from 0 to 50, the process engineer think like this, that if if we have an order from this cost to this IS1 below the 50 millimeter water gauge, we know that this value is spurious, is fallacious. It's something that I can't trust. It is obvious to me that, of course, it should be below 50. Therefore, it is not a good criterion for me to shut down the reformer. So because of this, I install the inactivations so that spurious values would not trip the system ridiculously. But, but, if I pass this 50 millimeter water gauge, and if I go to 55 or let's say 60 millimeter water gauge after 1 hour, and the pressure suddenly reduces below the 50, that's my problem. That means that the system really has some problems, and of course, it should shut down the whole fire heaters because of the safety matters. That's the meaning of inactivations in the logic of the fire heaters. And now, what was the problem? The problem was the delay time. I was starting off, I passed after I passed, I was increasing the flow rate, I was increasing the speed, and to be honest, I didn't care about this 50 millimeter water gauge because at that time I was thinking about a lot of aspects of fire heaters. I was checking burners, sequence of burners. I didn't care about, not I didn't care about. I'm a human. I'm not a computer to think about everything here. That became a mistake. That became experience for me. So I wasn't thinking about this one at that time. I passed this 50, and and after 40 seconds, there was a total shutdown of the fire heaters, and we checked the trends in control room. The pressure of the combustion air decreased from 51 to 48 millimeter water gauge. Now you're a little confused here. Uh, let help you better understand the situation here. Imagine that from this 0 to 50 millimeter water gauge takes about 7 hours. And this 20 seconds is called the delay time. What is the purpose of this delay time? Regardless of this logic for these fire heaters, in other logics, for instance, let's say for a pump for control valves, we don't have such inactivation in those logics or interlocks. We have just delay. The delay here is to serve the purpose of this fact that sometimes some values ordered by transmitter in the site is not correct. In fact, it is spurious. It just picks for 3 seconds, then gets back to the normalcy. So I can realize such value. So I add a delay time in order to prevent any ridiculous tripping or shutdown of that equipment. Here we are dealing with fire heaters, so I add this 20 seconds. Normally it is between 0 to 10 seconds. It's an example here. I add these 20 seconds if the pressure transmitter of the combustioner gives me some wrong value, some not trusted value, then it has the time to correct itself, the transmitter I mean, and send me the correct value. From process perspective, what does it mean? It means that during this time, 7 hours plus 20 seconds, if the pressure reduces below 50 or is below 50, I'm not gonna experience any shutdown of the fire heaters. But if after 7 hours and 40 seconds, not 20 seconds, 20 seconds later, 40 seconds, the pressure becomes lower than 50, it's gonna trip me. In fact, I can look at this 20 seconds or delay time from another perspective. It gives me time to eliminate any turbulence in the pressure of the combustion air, because a small, in fact, changes might happen from 50.5 to 50 around this order, and it might easily trip. So it gives me 20 seconds to uh, swiftly, to in a fast manner, increase the pressure from 50 to 52, 53, so that it's not going to easily trip. But after the shutdown, we immediately performed a HAZOP, a mini HAZOP there with amazing experienced people who had 40 years of experience. We talked to the vendor, and finally we checked every aspects, and finally we increased this delay time to 120 seconds instead of 20 seconds, so that it would give the control room operator more time to increase the pressure, increase the flow rate in a slowly manner, because you can increase also the pressure or flow rate in a fast way, because it might impact the draft pressure and shut down the whole fire heaters. That was our experience dealing with logics and delay time in the logic of fire heaters. I hope that it would have been beneficial. It would be beneficial for your future, and you will not make such similar mistakes. That's the end, and have a good day.